cold breeze swept through the bustling city streets, where people hurried past, too busy with their own lives to notice the man standing near the corner café. His clothes were worn, his shoes scuffed, and his face carried the weight of exhaustion. Yet, despite his appearance, his eyes held a quiet confidence, as if he knew something no one else did. Across the street, Olivia Chambers adjusted her designer coat and tapped her perfectly manicured nails against her coffee cup. She had built a name for herself in the business world, a powerful, wealthy woman who prided herself on success. But Olivia also had a reputation for something else, a sharp tongue and a lack of patience for those she deemed beneath her. Today, she was in the mood for a little entertainment. It started with a glance. The man, standing by the cafe's entrance, watching people pass by. He wasn't begging. He wasn't asking for handouts. He was simply waiting, observing. That piqued Olivia's curiosity. She had seen homeless people before, plenty of them, but something about this man made her pause. A smirk curled at the edge of her lips as she turned to her assistant, Mia. "Watch this," she whispered, lowering her sunglasses. She strode toward the man with slow, deliberate steps. "Excuse me," she said, her voice dripping with mock concern. "Are you looking for a job?" The man turned to her, his expression unreadable. He hesitated before answering. "Yes, actually." Olivia feigned surprise, widening her eyes dramatically. "Really? That's so inspiring. You're trying to turn your life around." She sighed and glanced down at his shoes, then back up at his face. "But, looking like that, it might be hard for people to take you seriously." Mia stifled a laugh behind her hand. A few people nearby turned their heads, sensing something was happening. The man didn't react. He simply nodded, as if he had heard this all before. "I understand," he said. His voice was calm, steady. Olivia leaned in slightly, her smile never reaching her eyes. "Tell you what," she said. "I own a few businesses in this city. Maybe I can help you." Mia nudged Olivia, trying to hold back a giggle. Olivia ignored her. She wasn't done playing her little game yet. "You see," she continued, tilting her head, "I believe in second chances, but only for those who really deserve it. And well," she gestured vaguely toward his appearance, "it's hard to tell if you're serious about this." The man held her gaze. There was something unsettling about the way he looked at her. Not desperate, not angry, just knowing. "I appreciate the offer," he said, "but I don't think I need your help." That response caught Olivia off guard. She had expected gratitude, maybe even pleading. Instead, he was refusing her. "Oh," she raised an eyebrow. "And why's that?" The man smiled. "Because you have no idea who I am." For the first time in a long time, Olivia felt a flicker of unease. The way he said it, the quiet confidence in his voice. It was almost as if he was the one in control, not her. Mia glanced between them, sensing the sudden shift in energy. "Olivia, maybe we should—" Olivia waved a hand dismissively. "Oh, come on," she scoffed. "I think I'd know if I was talking to someone important." She chuckled, shaking her head. "You don't have to play games. It's okay to ask for help." The man's smile didn't falter. "Oh, I'm not playing games," he said, "but you are." And then, just like that, he turned and walked away. Olivia stood frozen for a moment, watching him disappear down the sidewalk. A strange feeling settled in her chest, something she couldn't quite place. Who was he? She had meant for this to be a joke, a bit of fun at someone else's expense. But now, for the first time, she felt like she was the one being played, and she didn't like that feeling at all. What Olivia didn't know, what she couldn't have possibly guessed, was that in just 2 months, The man she had mocked today would return. And when he did, he wouldn't be standing on the street corner. No, he would be standing somewhere else. Somewhere much higher, and this time, he would be the one holding all the power. But by then, it would already be too late. For the next few days, Olivia couldn't shake the strange encounter from her mind. The way the man had looked at her, the quiet confidence in his eyes, the certainty in his voice. It was unsettling. She had spent years building her reputation, her wealth, her influence. No one ever spoke to her like that, especially not someone standing on a street corner in worn-out clothes. And yet, something about him lingered. Like a song stuck on repeat, Mia noticed it too. "You've been distracted," she said one afternoon, as they sat in Olivia's office, high above the city in her glass-walled empire. Olivia waved a hand, dismissively. "It's nothing," she said. "Just something odd happened the other day." Mia tilted her head. "That guy from the café." Olivia sighed. "I don't know why I keep thinking about it." She spun her coffee cup between her fingers. "It was supposed to be a joke, but the way he looked at me, like he knew something I didn't." Mia shrugged. "Maybe he was just messing with you." "Maybe," Olivia said. But even as the words left her lips, she didn't believe them. As the weeks passed, Olivia buried herself in work, pushing the encounter to the back of her mind. She had bigger things to focus on: expanding her business, securing new partnerships, staying ahead of the competition. Her world was one of power moves and calculated risks, and she thrived in it. But then, something strange started happening. It began with small things. Whispers in the business world about a new player entering the scene, a silent investor with deep pockets, companies suddenly pulling out of deals with her, citing better opportunities elsewhere. A few of her trusted employees leaving unexpectedly, claiming they had received offers they couldn't refuse. Olivia wasn't worried at first. She had dealt with competition before, but then an old business partner, someone she had worked with for years, requested a private meeting. "There's something you need to know," he said, lowering his voice as they sat in a quiet corner of an upscale restaurant. "Have you heard of Nicholas Grant?" The name didn't ring a bell. "Should I have?" Olivia asked, raising an eyebrow. Her partner hesitated. "He's elusive. No one knows much about him, except that he's been making moves in the industry. Big moves. People say he has money. Real money. And power. He's buying out companies, left and right." Olivia leaned back, unimpressed. "So, what does that have to do with me?" Her partner exhaled slowly. "Because, Olivia, his latest interest is you." For the first time in a long time, a chill ran down her spine. She didn't like being watched. She didn't like being targeted. Who was this Nicholas Grant? Days turned into weeks, and the pressure mounted. Olivia's name, once untouchable in the business world, was suddenly caught in an invisible storm. Investors were hesitant, competitors were circling, and her empire, once solid as stone, felt like it was standing on shifting sand. And then, one morning, she received an invitation, a black envelope. No name, no return address, just a single card inside with an embossed message. "Join me for dinner. We have unfinished business." The location was a 5-star hotel, one of the most exclusive in the city. Olivia's hands tightened around the card. There was only one person this could be from, and she had a feeling she was about to find out exactly who Nicholas Grant really was. When she arrived at the restaurant, she was met by a hostess who guided her to a private dining room. The air was thick with anticipation as she stepped inside. And there he was, the man from the café, no longer in worn clothes, no longer standing on a street corner. Now he was dressed in a tailored suit, seated at the head of a long table, a glass of wine in hand. He smiled as he saw her, the same knowing smile from before. "Olivia," he said smoothly. "It's been a while." She felt her breath catch. This wasn't possible. She had mocked him, looked down on him, assumed he was nothing, and now he was the one sitting in power. "You—" Her voice faltered. "You're Nicholas Grant." He took a sip of his wine, before setting the glass down. "I told you," he said, leaning forward. "You had no idea who I was." A heavy silence filled the room. Olivia had spent her life controlling situations, manipulating outcomes, always being 2 steps ahead. But now, she was the one who had been played, and she had a feeling this was only the beginning. Olivia's pulse pounded in her ears as she stared at the man sitting across from her. Nicholas Grant, the name she had only recently heard, whispered in business circles, the name that had been behind her failing deals, her crumbling network, the name that, until this very moment, had meant nothing to her. And yet, here he was, the same man she had mocked, the same man she had dismissed without a second thought. He wasn't homeless. He wasn't desperate. He wasn't insignificant. He was the man who had been watching her, moving against her, and now she finally understood why. Olivia forced herself to sit down, her mind racing. "All right," she said, keeping her voice steady. "I'll admit, this is unexpected." Nicholas chuckled, his expression calm, unreadable. "I imagine it is." She studied him, trying to make sense of it all. "So what is this? Revenge? Did I offend you so badly that you decided to come after me?" Nicholas leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. "Revenge?" He tilted his head as if considering the word. "No, Olivia. I don't waste my time on things like that." His words didn't make sense. If this wasn't personal, then why go after her business? Why make moves in silence, pulling strings from the shadows? "Then what is this?" she asked, her frustration growing. "You've been chipping away at my empire for weeks. What do you want?" Nicholas studied her for a long moment, then let out a quiet sigh. "Do you remember what you said to me that day?" Olivia's fingers curled around the edge of the table. Of course, she remembered. She had mocked him, humiliated him, acted like he was nothing, but she stayed silent. Nicholas gave a small smile, as if he could see right through her. "You looked at me and assumed you knew my worth. You thought because I didn't fit into your world, I wasn't important." His voice was steady, but there was something deeper behind it. A truth she had failed to see before. "That day, Olivia, you showed me exactly how you view people, and I realized something." She swallowed. "What?" "That you're not nearly as powerful as you think you are." His words cut deeper than she expected. "You built your success on being ruthless, on making people feel small." Nicholas continued. "You think you're untouchable, but power doesn't come from money, Olivia. It comes from the people you surround yourself with. And those people, they've been leaving you." A cold realization settled over her. He was right. She had spent years climbing to the top, stepping on whoever she needed to. She had always believed that power was about control, about being the one with the last word. But now she was sitting across from a man she had underestimated, and he had taken everything from her without lifting a finger. For the first time in a long time, she felt small. She exhaled slowly, straightening her shoulders. "So, what happens now?" Nicholas took another sip of his wine. "That's up to you." Olivia frowned. "What do you mean?" He set his glass down and met her gaze. "I didn't come here to destroy you, Olivia. I came to give you a choice. A choice." The idea almost made her laugh. She had spent her entire life making decisions for others, Yet here she was, with someone else holding all the cards. Nicholas leaned back, watching her carefully. You can keep fighting, trying to hold on to a kingdom that's already slipping through your fingers. Or, he paused. You can change. Her breath caught in her throat. Change. She had never considered it, never believed she needed to. For years she had convinced herself that the way she operated was necessary, that kindness was weakness, that empathy was a liability. But now she wasn't so sure. Nicholas didn't need to say anything else. The message was clear. He wasn't her enemy. He was her wake-up call. The silence stretched between them before Olivia finally nodded, something shifting inside her. Maybe it wasn't too late. Maybe for the first time in her life, she had something to prove, not to others, but to herself. She stood up, smoothing down her dress. I'll think about it. Nicholas gave a small nod, as if he already knew her answer, as she walked out of the restaurant, the city lights reflecting in the glass doors. Olivia realized that this wasn't the end of her story. It was just the beginning of something new.